Good morning, and I've found a tree where I can perch my phone and my Bible. It's like an outdoor pulpit, although I'm not really preaching. This is just a Bible reading highlight that hopefully can be an encouragement to you. Simple, biblical, relevant, that's the goal. 2 Thessalonians and chapter 1, verse 3. Paul says, "We ought always to give thanks to God for you, brothers, as is right, because your faith is growing abundantly, and the love of every one of you for one another is increasing." Kind of horticultural terminology he's using here, growing abundantly and increasing. Yesterday we worked in the garden for a couple of hours, and I can't claim to have ever been very successful at growing anything abundantly or even getting anything to increase other than weeds and mess. But I love the combination here that he says, look, your faith is growing abundantly, your trust in God growing abundantly. That's something to pray for, isn't it? And the love of every one of you for one another is increasing. Faith and love, two very typical kind of Paul ideas. There's going to be hope somewhere in the context as well, because he'll always tend to combine the three. But faith and love growing abundantly and increasing, these aren't things that we self-generate. These are things that God grows in us, which is why I think he says right at the start of the sentence, we ought always to give thanks to God for you. And so he's giving thanks to God for their growing faith and for their increasing love for one another. Why does God get the credit? Well, for a start, because he's the one who is trustworthy. Our faith in God is not something we manufacture. It's something that we comes as a response to who he is. We're trusting him. And our love is growing for one another because we're discovering more and more, and we're growing more and more in his love being in us. And so it's his love, his trustworthiness in us that then is growing up from us in faith toward him and love toward others. It's kind of simple stuff, isn't it? But it's good to think about that today, whatever you're going through, in the next verse he talks about in the afflictions that you are enduring. In their case, persecution, in our case, a different situation. But in the midst of difficult times, it's encouraging to know that God is the one who can be trusted, and the one who loves us, and the one who is worthy of praise for generating in us that response of trust, growing faith, and growing love for one another. Let's appreciate the God that we have, and even in strange times, let's give him thanks for what he's doing in us and in others, growing our faith, increasing our love, making us more like him, because he is a God who can be trusted and a God who is love.